Well, so look, we have one more person that's coming up real quick, and if I could get everybody's attention, just sit down. And if we could quiet down while this person is speaking towards the back. She's won Collegiate Crick Nationals, a Cat 1 road race just in 2022, Winston-Salem Pro D1 in 2021, along with a string of Cat 1 races. Please put your hands together for Miss Ama Nsek. Oh, I said, Mister. Do you get that all the time? Oh, okay, so I don't feel bad no more. Salute, my brother. Damn, how many things you did? Collegiate Crit Nationals, Cat 1 Road Race, Winston-Salem, North Carolina? Triad? In the Triad. Oh yeah, I know where you at, man. We out here. No, we talk about it later. Put your hands together for Amma.
So I just got off a plane earlier today, like maybe 4 hours ago, so I'm a little bit tired. I'm gonna try not to stutter too much. Public speaking is definitely not my strong suit, but here we go. First off, honestly, thank you for the ladies. Again, that was a wonderful and insightful conversation. Thank you so much. And thank you for Ken and Rasan and all the support crew for being able to put this together. We're talking so much about how representation matters, and honestly, outside of this room, the majority of the people that I converse with are very white and don't really know how to carry conversations about diversity. And I go to school in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee, and they don't care about diversity. So it's wonderful just being in this room and being able to brainstorm with this many people about very important topics. So. Yeah, Ken brought me here to talk about race IQ and tactics, but at the end of the day, I'm curious, who here races bikes? Okay, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. That was like the assignment from Ken. I was thinking about kind of how to go about it, and at the end of the day, I was having trouble doing it because it was kind of like a pilot going to like flight school, and they only teach him how to fly the plane when it's in the air. You really have to know how to do takeoff and land. So I can't really just do IQ and tactics, kind of have to do the whole thing. So I was thinking, like, how can I help you guys plan for like the most successful season? And I'm very retrospective and introspective, so I'm thinking about kind of how I plan my seasons, and I realize I do the same thing pretty much every year. And I'll just kind of go through this and explain it, and I'll give you examples as to how I use it every season. So let's do this. Yeah, so it essentially starts with goal setting. Sorry. The first thing that you really have to do is understand what your goals are for the year if you're going to understand the amount of work that you're going to have to put in for it. So, for me, last year, my number one goals were nationals. So I had collegiate nationals, I had Cat 1 nationals, and I had mountain bike nationals. Those three were really important to me. Me going to school meant that I couldn't focus on every single race. I really had to dial it down to just those races. I didn't care. Like, my job was to be the best teammate possible at every other race. Literally, like, my goal is literally win collegiate nats, win elite nats, try to win mountain bike nats, and be the best teammate possible. Those were my 4 goals for 2022. And after I got that down, really, I started to think about the environment that I live in, and that comes down to habits. So, for example, every day when I get up in my room, I have my goals lined up right here. So I wake up, look at my goals, I know exactly what I'm working for. It's a habit that I do every single day, and it's also the place where I'm most likely to be laying down when I'm tired. So if I'm like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm super I need my nap. I'm gonna get in my bed, I'm super tired, I'm about to knock out. I look at the goals and immediately get back to work. So it doesn't matter whether I'm tired. I finish when I'm done, not when I'm tired. So, yeah, and I like to think of myself as a student. Obviously, the older that I get, this is my first time really speaking in a public event. My job starts to become less as a student and more as like a teacher, but I still I practice reading and I educate myself consistently. There's a book called The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg that really just dives into how powerful habits are and how it leads you to be the person that you are. Like 95% of who you are is derived from your habits. And if you can control those habits, then you can control your future. So for me, I'm really thinking about, okay, so how can I execute my daily habits to make it as effective as possible for me to win collegiate nats, win road nats, win mountain bike nats, and be the best teammate possible. So reading, I make it a habit to read an hour a day. So the question is like, how can I do this? And for me, it really is just like morning routine. So I know that if I wake up and I go for my morning walk, I'm gonna go for my morning walk and I'm immediately gonna put my book right next to the door. If my book's right next to the door, I'll walk in, pick up the book, start reading. You know, if my goal is to, for me, I found that if I journal right before I go for a ride, immediately I feel so much less stress and I'm able to complete rides with a lot more effectiveness. I'm able to execute rides exactly as they were planned with a lot more consistency. So I know that if I have my coffee for the day, I'm also gonna journal. There's no way I'm gonna miss my morning coffee, so I'm definitely gonna be journaling, stuff like that. But yeah, like, so you have the goal setting, you have analyzing your habits, and then you start to dive into your mindset. So for me, I separate it into why do I do this, who do I do this for, and what is it gonna take for me to get to this goal? And you know, why do I do this? I do this because I love it. There's so many aspects of racing that I love, and you know, I love the thrill of going 40 miles an hour into the last corner. I love the thrill of like knowing that I'm in a breakaway. There's two sprinters here. I gotta outsmart them. You know, I love the idea of, you know, if I take these two corners just right, I can apply just enough pressure. I can get some bike lengths on my competitors and put myself in an advantage. I love thinking about, okay, crosswinds are coming. If I'm able to, you know, give a little bit of space and shut the gap right going into the finish, and I come on the outside if it's a crosswind, now I'm in the advantage. I love thinking about all this stuff in racing, and it excites me. You know, so that's my why, and like, I just want to be the best version of myself. And then who do I do this for? You know, I do it for my dad. You know, I do it for my brother. I do it for my mom. I do it for all the supporters that have helped me get to where I'm at and want to see me be my best self. And what is it gonna take for this to happen? That's the final step. So honestly, if it's like 10 o'clock and I am really like dead tired, I've just finished up like 3 exams, I finished up work, and unfortunately cycling is like the last thing that has to come that day, it doesn't matter. We're out here to get our goals. It doesn't matter what obstacles are in my way. If it's time, if it's daylight, doesn't matter. I'm gonna lose sleep. I'm gonna have to put my lights on. I'm gonna have to get out there. It's what we gotta do. So after you have that, then it comes down to preparation. There's a lot of preparation that comes behind racing, and there's a lot of preparation that comes behind training as well. So for example, nutrition is something that isn't necessarily talked about as much, but it definitely should be. I'll give a quick example. So like 2 days ago, I had like a 4-hour ride. And my number one objective was like, I knew I was gonna do the intervals, but the question is like, how much can I consume in that? So I had to do so much prep. I had to get all my gels ready. I had to make sure that I had enough mix ready. I had to make sure that I had my recovery mix for after the ride. I had to make sure that I had my dinner planned so that I could recover as fast as possible. And all this is done so that when race day comes, I'm ready. And the more that you prepare, the better you can execute. So that's just in training. When it comes to racing, I make sure that I have the law of redundancy. I make sure I have 2 of everything. I make sure that I have 2 heart rate straps. I make sure that I have 2 Garmins. I make sure that I have my spare wheels. I make sure that I have everything all lined up. So when shit hits the fan, I'm sorry for cursing, I have everything ready so I don't have to stress. The more that you stress, crit racing's already super stressful. I don't know if you guys know this. It's really stressful. I don't really want to have more of that. So the more that I can prepare, the more that I can anticipate potential reasons that might cause stress, the more that I can avoid it. So that, once you have all that set, then you really get into racing. So racing IQ, it's kind of hard for me to explain it just because I've been doing it for so long. But the easiest way that I can explain it is, it really is chess on bikes, and you have to think 10 steps ahead. So, from the moment that the gun goes off, I'm already thinking about what's going to be happening 15 minutes into the race. The moment that someone attacks, I know that they just wasted a match, and I'm going to wait for them to be absolutely over leveraged so that I can go drill that screw in. And no, and I think the easiest way that I can describe this is like the Cat 1 road race, just because like everything had to go exactly according to plan for me to get to that finish line at first. I wasn't even expecting it. But I was setting myself up with the ideas like it's very low odds, but if I work the race just right, I can shift it in my favor. So for example, like Project Echelon, strongest team there, they're constantly doing races in Europe. They have an absolute killer like time trial squad. They have fantastic climbers, and they know how to race, but they underestimated how hard I could stick in it. And it was because of that I was able to just take that inch and make it into a mile. So they attack at the base. I'm at the front, I sink to the back as the climb starts so I can produce less power. And then right at the top, I shoot across the next group. They split the field up. There's 5 chase groups. I'm constantly recovering and shooting to the next group, recovering, shooting to the next group, because my explosive ability takes time to recharge, but I know I could snap to the next group easy. So they may have dropped me for sure, and that if I tried to stay with them, I would have been done, easy. But because I knew how to race and I knew that I could snap across in a way that is only applicable to like sprinters that can climb really well, because you still have to make it over the climb somewhat in a good spot. And because of that, they had an oversight. They didn't expect for me to make it over the climb. That wasn't there over the climb. I made it back like 5 kilometers later. And by then it was too late. So, I knew that at that point, the wind's coming from this direction. I know that if I swing out, I can shoot back in to take the apex for the final corner. I can come in with a lot more speed than everyone else. And I knew that I had a pop that was stronger than pretty much anyone else in that field, because all the sprinters were already shed. So, race IQ is kind of like that. And then the final part is really just like post-race analysis. And this is where you really can't do this by yourself. It really does take a village. But in this case, me and my coach, at the end of every race, for example, Winston-Salem, after I won that, I didn't go out and celebrate. I really didn't. I went to my hotel room, I took a shower, and the first thing I did was I opened up my laptop, I uploaded my file, and in the post-activity comments, I wrote down exactly how the race went down from my perspective. And then afterwards, I watched the live stream as to exactly what happened, made sure that it corroborated with my perspective of what happened, so that my vision isn't biased. And the day after, he gave me a call, and we're like, hey, look, like, this was great. Great job winning, but also if you were to have raced a better race, you could have taken advantage 25 minutes in. Right when this happened, you should have been able to see this break was going to go, and you could have saved the match bridging, right? So it would have made it even more likely for me to win at that point. So it's that's kind of my process as to how I go about racing. Post-race analysis is something that happens constantly throughout the season, but the whole goal setting, taking a look at your mentality, taking a look at your habits, and being able to make sure that you have the best preparation is really what makes a season great. So, yeah. All right, let's hear it.
So I have a question in regards to the post-race analysis.
Yeah.
Salt Lake City last year. Now, obviously, we're looking at live stream in LA. You're in the middle of the race. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're in a 5-man break?
4.
4-man break. Legion is in that break.
Yes.
controlling it for the majority of the race.
Yep.
Come down to the last 3 or 4 laps, say 3 laps. From what my perspective looks like Legion, because they had a minute break, they were slowing down to allow the peloton to catch. You kept looking back, and it was almost like a relief, like you want the peloton to catch back up so you can get back in. Well, we were sitting there thinking, like, if you know that they were slowing down, why wouldn't you attack? Because from our perspective, the other 3 in the break would not have chased you because they were waiting on the peloton.
They definitely were not waiting on the peloton. The only person who was waiting on the peloton was Tyler Williams. Yeah.
So if you had attacked, you probably would have stayed back.
No, he wouldn't have. He would have chased me down. Yeah, 1,000%. So I'll give you a play-by-play. So race analysis. I make the break. I'm like, I knew that break was going to go off at that time. So, or at least it was statistically likely that it was going to go off. And if it wasn't that one, it was going to be the next one. So that's why I decided that was the only break that I chased. And that was the break that made it. So I get into the break. And in order to drop the sprinter, just heads up for everyone listening, you want to do it when you're establishing the break because that's when it's the hardest. So that's when the sprinter is most vulnerable. If he isn't as strong as everyone else, he's going to be struggling. So if you attack at that point, they're done. It's a lot easier to drop them right then and there than to give them the 10 minutes that they need to recover, or even just 2 minutes. And now it doesn't matter what attack you do; they'll hold your wheel, no matter what. So Tyler countered right as we were forming the break, and I managed to hold his wheel, but I was on the rivet, he was on the rivet, and he was like, I know if it comes down to a sprint, almost got me. That was literally, we were talking during the race, and it was a little bit less choice. But essentially what happens is, I covered the move. I was like, I can do this all day long. I was bluffing. That's a good tactic for sprinters, just bluff. But immediately after I say I can do this all day, next lap, he tells the team, because his race radio wasn't working, reel us back in at 3 to go. I was like, all right, race is over. I just need to stay as fresh as possible, wait for the field to come back up, and that was it. So the field caught us a lot faster than I was expecting. But, it was really aggressive, and that course is definitely not the safest. So, that's how the race unfolded. So, does that make sense? Yep. All right. Any other questions? Race IQ, preparation, any of stuff that I do?
Not a question, just housekeeping. We have maybe 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we gotta get out of here.
Okay.
Meet us out, man. Meet us out.
Walk and talk.
All right. You have a
You
question?
were saying part of how you build your IQ is the racing. You've been doing it for a very long time. What suggestions do you have for folks who may not have a lot of racing opportunities to build their IQ? Or, I know one of the things I like to do is watch different YouTube videos and hear people talk about their strategies and stuff like that. But I was just curious if you had any other suggestions.
Okay. The moment that I started racing back in 2021, again, I knew I was going to start taking it very seriously. So, got a coach, post-race analysis, super insightful. He's been coaching people for over a decade. So his insight expedited my growth. Also finding people that can help you have a lot more experience, that have done the racing. So for me, my biggest mentors when I was a junior was Roy Nickman. He was a bronze medalist at the World Championships on 7-Eleven. And then me coming back to Legion, Justin Williams was actually the craziest leader when it came to helping you understand a race and how it unfolds. And, we're very similar as far as our skill sets. So, before and after races, I'm like, hey, how'd you end up doing this? This is crazy. And he just shows me the trick of being able to bridge to a break and using my sprint to force everyone else to do work because they can't keep the draft. That saved so many races for me. Yep. Sorry. I'll go you. Sorry.
What was your skill level as a cyclist before you became a racer?
So I had really bad asthma. I was running 10-minute miles in 8th grade, me going all out. So my dad just got me into riding a lot. And he kept pushing me and pushing me and pushing me, and now it's like it's very very remote episodes of asthma, and it's, all of a sudden now I can start racing really good and make Team USA and stuff like that.
All right, I'll be the last question. Um, I've known you and your brother, your family for a very long time, and it's more of a statement actually, and maybe there is a question at the end of it, but I feel like some of the questions that were asked, you did answer them as well as you could, but in some of your stories, he tells so many great things that are nuances in the sport, like how to set up 3 corners before a corner. Like most people don't even think about that. So I guess my question to the back of that is like, where do you learn that from? Because it's hard to teach at times, like you said. It's hard to teach tactics. You really have to get into the fire and kind of figure it out. Even post-race analysis, I can tell someone all the time. All right, I know we got to wrap it up. I do videos where I voice over, right? People are like, why are you giving away your secret? It's not a secret because I can tell you all the time. I don't mean you can execute it. So what makes you get to the point where you actually can execute those things?
Preparation. The more you prepare, the easier it is. And my time on Legion was insane because the moment that he ran us through, he literally pulled out a whiteboard. Like, all right, this is where you're done. This is where your lead out's done. And we're going to start sprinting at 3 corners to go because they literally cannot physically have enough space to pass us with these corners. Like, seeing that was just, and then seeing it on the whiteboard was like, oh my goodness, so simple. And then seeing it in person and everyone's going crazy and you got like 10,000 people at Tulsa going like, that was also crazy. So.
So I know that's easy. So you can't go without seeing it, right? You would never do it without seeing it, right, on a whiteboard.
I think it would have taken a little bit longer. I'm a very visual person, but yeah.